So today I'm going to read one of my favorite books. It's called Salt in His Shoes, Michael Jordan in the Pursuit of a Dream by Deloris, Jordon. Michael loved to play basketball. Every Saturday he followed his older brothers, Larry and Ronnie, to the park, hoping that they would let him play. And if one of the guys usually playing with him didn't show, they always did. But there was a problem. His name was Mark, and he was the tallest boy on the court. "What's the matter, Mikey? Too short?" Mark flapped his arms in Michael's face. "Over here," shouted Larry. But when Michael threw the ball, Mark's long arms came out of nowhere and knocked the ball away. It flew into the hands of a player on Mark's team. He made the basket, and the game was over. Just like that. "I'm really sorry, guys. If I was taller, that wouldn't have happened." All the way home, Michael apologized, even though nobody was mad at him. His older brother, Ronnie, tried to cheer him up. He said, "Look, little brother, you played good today. Don't worry. We'll win next time." When he got home, Michael went into the kitchen where his mama was cooking dinner. He was still disappointed, and she could tell. "You guys lost again today, huh?" Michael nodded. He sat for a minute. "Mom, how can I grow taller?" Now, his mom knew the answer to a lot of questions, but that was a tough one. She thought for a moment as she sprinkled salt and pepper on the chicken that she was making for dinner. Then she smiled, looked at Michael, and said, "Salt, salt." Michael looked up at his mom. "Salt in your shoes. We'll put salt in your shoes. And say a prayer every night. Before you know it, you'll be taller," she replied. See, there's Michael at the table, and there's his mom, and she's got salt shaker in her hand. So Michael's scratching his head. I'd be scratching my head too. "Salt my shoes," Michael said to himself. Surely Mom was teasing. He sat there staring out the window, trying to figure out how salt was going to help him grow. He noticed the rose bushes outside his mom's garden. They'd grown high along the fence. Roses of all colors were blooming on the vines. He thought to himself, I remember when Mom first planted those bushes." Michael's face lit up. "If she knows how to make rose bushes grow taller, then maybe she's right. Maybe salt in my shoes will help me grow." Growing more excited, Michael twirled around and started asking lots of questions. "Mom, how long will it take? And how tall do you think I'll get?" Smiling, his mom sat down next to him and said, "In order for this to work, the most important thing you have to do is to be patient and listen to what I tell you. Say your prayers every night." Listening carefully, Michael shook his head. "Okay, Mama, I'll be patient." "What does saying my prayers have to do with it?" "Everything," his mom replied, and she hugged him. "Now go wash up and tell your brothers and sisters to get ready for dinner." Michael dashed out of the kitchen, almost knocking over his father, who was walking in. "What's he up to?" asked his dad. "Oh, the usual," laughed his mom. "Chasing a dream." Later during dinner, Mom noted that Michael was barely eating anything. He was already daydreaming about being taller. "Michael, first things first. You won't grow if you don't eat, especially your vegetables." My mom used to say the same thing to me. "But I'm not really hungry," he said. Raising her eyebrows, his mom gave him a stern look. Slowly, he picked up his fork and began to eat. Minutes later, his plate was clean and he was asking for more. That evening at bedtime, Michael set his favorite game shoes on the floor next to the growth chart hanging on the wall. Then he put on his pajamas, said his prayers, and jumped into bed. See, there's his shoes, there's his ball. He's got a bunk bed in his room. When his mom came in, Michael was already asleep. By the look on his face, she could tell that he was already playing basketball in his dreams. Standing by his bed, his mom sprinkled salt in his shoes. Then she prayed quietly over him as she did all her children. "Dear God, please help Michael be the best he can be and give his best in all that he does. And Lord, would you please make him just a little bit taller tomorrow than he is today? Thank you. Amen." After that night, Michael wore his favorite game shoes everywhere he went, even to church. And he stopped going to the park with his brothers on Saturdays. Instead, he stayed home and practiced. He wanted to grow a few more inches before he went back to the park. See, there's Michael practicing. After 2 months of practicing and patiently waiting and praying, Michael stood next to the growth chart on his wall. Nothing! He hadn't grown an inch! He was disappointed, but he did not stop believing. I just got to give it time, like my mom said, Michael thought to himself. And that's what he did. There he is next to that growth chart, and he hadn't grown an inch. 2 more months of practicing went by, and still nothing. Now Michael was starting to get a little sad. Not only had he not grown an inch, but he also missed playing ball with Larry and Ronnie. About the only thing he didn't miss was being picked on by Mark. When the next Saturday came, his brothers tried to get Michael to go with them to the park, but he would not budge. His mom began to worry. When she saw Michael sitting along on the steps, she said to his dad, "Maybe you should go out and talk to him." So Dad went out and sat with Michael. "What's wrong, son? You haven't been to the park with your brothers in a while. Are you okay?" Michael didn't say anything at first. Then he looked at his dad and said, "I thought I'd at least be a few inches taller by now. I did everything my mom told me to do, but nothing's happening." "Michael, why do you want to be taller?" his dad asked. "If I were taller, I'd be a great player, and I could help our team win." "But you are a great player, son. And you already have it and everything that it takes to be a winner right in here." He pointed at his heart. His dad tapped Michael on the chest. "Being taller may help you be a little bit of a better player, but not as much as practice, determination, and giving it your best. Those are the things that make a real winner." Michael thought about what Daddy said for a minute. Then suddenly he jumped up and took off. "Where are you going?" his dad yelled after him. "I got a game today and I'm late," Michael yelled back. So Michael's now gotten to the park. When Michael reached the park, the game had already started. He sat on the bench hoping he'd get a chance to play, and he did. The game was almost over and the score was tied when John, one of the guys on Michael's team, fell and hurt himself. Here was Michael's chance. Michael joined his team in the huddle as they gathered on the sidelines for a timeout. "All right, the game's tied. All we need is 1 point. Who wants to take the shot?" Ronnie asked. He looked in Michael's direction. Feeling more confident than ever, Michael said, "I'll do it." Look at the size difference. Look at how short Michael is. I wonder what happens next. When the whistle blew and the game began, Mark began to pick on Michael as usual. That's the big guy Mark, if you'll remember him. "Still trying to play with the big boys, huh?" Mark taunted. But Michael paid no attention to him. Taller or not, he'd been practicing, and today he was determined to win. Larry threw the ball in bounds to Michael. Michael caught it, bounced it for a moment, and then took off running. As he approached Mark, Michael shifted to his right. Mark followed, but while he was still shifting, Michael spun to his left. He stepped behind Mark and shot. The ball arced far above his opponent's hands and fell silently through the hoop. 2 points, the game was over, and Michael's team had won. It was just as Michael had dreamed. When he realized what he'd done, Michael took off running and didn't stop until he reached home. Bursting through the door, he shouted, "I did it, Daddy, I did it. I shot the ball right over the tall guy's head and we won the game." Running in behind him, Ronnie and Larry joined in the celebration. "That's right, little brother, you did it. You won the game for us." Michael remembered the look that Ronnie gave him during the last time out of the game and said, "No, we won the game, but I was the star." They all laughed. After that day, Mom stopped putting salt in Michael's shoes, but Michael did not stop being patient, working hard, and praying. So that must have been what made Michael grow to be a 6'6" tall basketball superstar. My favorite player of all time, Michael Jordan. So that concludes one of my favorite children's books and one of my son's favorite books. The story of Michael Jordan, a young man who never gave up, who went to college at the University of North Carolina, who hit a shot in his freshman year against Georgetown University to win the national championship, then went on to be one of the greatest basketball players of all time. I hope you all enjoyed my story.